I'm not going to say what most people would say, because they would talk about their passion or their love for the business or their commitment to change people's lives. I don't do any of that. I do this because I'm good at it, and it pays me really well. This is my business. And my approach is much, much different than most people's. There are too many people in the self-help industry who got in it to help other people. I think people help themselves when they're ready to help themselves. All I can do is remind them that they can. So they say, we got in this to change lives. I got in this business to change my life, period. It sounds hedonistic and selfish. That's fine. I believe in hedonism, and I'm a selfish person, because I make this about business, which I believe makes me better on stage. When I go on stage, there's been an exchange of money. So I am committed to being amazing because I've been paid to be amazing. I don't bring emotion or personality or any of those things into me being up there. I don't have to be in the mood. I don't have to get jazzed up. I don't do any of that stuff. I've been paid to be good. So by God, I'll be good, because that's the business deal that was struck. They didn't hire me based on how I was going to feel the day they scheduled the meeting. They hired me to be amazing regardless of the day that they schedule the meeting, regardless of what's going on in my life or their life or anything else. When people get caught up on the personal level in what we do for a living, that's when they can compromise their quality. I don't compromise quality. Because it is business with me, I'm great. And that's my commitment. I'm great. That's total integrity. That whole philosophy right there, that is integrity. That I don't have to think about what I do. And see, people say, you're just like that on stage. No, I'm this way 100% of the time. If you called me at 3 o'clock in the morning and asked me these questions, the answers wouldn't vary 10 words. Because this is not what I say on stage. This is who I am. And we've lost honesty and integrity and the ability to look people in the eye and tell them what you think, and to run our businesses based on a work ethic. And an exchange of funds means that I give you the best regardless of what mood I'm in or regardless of what situation is going on. It's commitment to our commitments. And that's what I believe in, and that's what I talk about. I think one of the biggest problems people have right now in society is that they don't take responsibility for where they are. They want to blame someone or some situation for their circumstances. And your circumstances are never going to get fixed or changed until you look yourself in the eye and said, I did this. My words, my thoughts, my actions created the life I'm living. So I want people to admit, not that I'm responsible, because responsible to me is a passive word. I'm the pit bull of personal responsibility, but that's a very passive word. Fault is a much more offensive word. So that's why I say your life's your own damn fault. It's the theme of everything I do. Your life's your own damn fault. At some level, you created what you're going through right now, whether it be in business, with your finances, in your relationships, with how much you weigh, everything in your life, you created the mess. Take responsibility, realize it's your fault, and then get off your ass and go fix it. Well, once you realize it's your fault, it sort of puts you in a position of ownership. Because when you own it, and you realize it's your fault, you realize no one else is coming to the rescue. You're not going to turn to the government. You're not going to turn to your employers. You're not going to turn to your family. When you realize you created the mess, you have to realize you are the only person who can create the solution. So it's a total change in mindset of where most people live. Someone else did this to me, and someone else is responsible for fixing it. I don't believe that. When you realize you did this to you, and it's up to you to fix it, your life changes. Well, my approach is so different because I shake people up. I say things, I mean to, when I say it, offend people. I mean to shock them. I mean for them to go, gee, I wish it had been nicer. What's interesting about this event is that you've got Bob who says basically the same thing I do, but he says it in a very nice way that reaches about half the world. And then you got people who think like I do, that you have to shake them up in order to wake them up. And they have to be shocked into reality. And most people suffer in comfort. They just kind of bump along the bottom. And as they're bumping along, they hear somebody like Bob or Mark Sanborn or Sally or something, and they go, man, that's a good idea. I'm going to stop bumping along the bottom and take off. I've never learned that way. I have always had to go face down in the mud. I have to feel the pain and the consequences of my bad decisions. If people will relate to the pain that I can sometimes cause them through my style, those people will relate more to what I have to say. Well, one, I think Bob's one of the few guys that's figured out how to monetize being a nice person. And Bob's a good guy, and he teaches other people to be good people. And I think that's real important in a world that, and it sounds funny coming from me, who's kind of known as being kind of a nasty jerk. It's real important that people learn those principles and those basic values that he teaches. I think that's what we've lost in our society, is those basic values that Bob is so big on. Absolutely. In fact, I get hired sometimes for that reason alone. That we've reached the nice people over here, but we need someone to wake up the more cynical and the little more hardcore. I know I'm not for everybody, but I'm okay with that. I don't believe you can have rabid fans unless you're willing to have rabid enemies. I have no problem upsetting people and have them shutting me off completely, because I know that when that happens, there's an equal number of people on the other side that are totally accepting of me. It's that everybody learns differently. And so by having a varied program where you bring in someone like me and someone like Bob and someone like that's a true motivational person, who's the person I make fun of from the stage, is motivational people. But when you bring it in and really offer people true variety, that's when you reach the whole crowd. It's called A Year of Success, where we brought in the very best of what we've been able to learn and what we've been teaching for all of these years through our books, through our performances all over the world, where you get 13 weeks of Sally, 13 weeks of Bob, 13 weeks of Mark, and 13 weeks of Larry Winget. You get 52 3-minute videos plus 2 action plans, and you get the lesson in writing. So people can not only hear the lesson and see that lesson, they'll also be able to read the lesson, download it, and refer back to it, but they get action steps. I believe that the lesson alone is pretty much worthless unless you give the ability for people to go out and say, this is what you have to do in order to start implementing that lesson in your life. Action changes things, not thoughts. And so if you just show somebody and they think about it, it's not enough. You've got to get them working on it. So the nice thing about this is, again, there's 4 different personalities that approach success very differently, but we still have a common core message, and it's excellence and hard work and belief and integrity and honesty and learning and continuing education, all those things that we all believe in. We just use 4 different styles and our individual backgrounds to communicate it. Well, I get asked that question a lot. It's interesting you bring that up, accountability versus responsibility. I believe that you're responsible for things and you're accountable to others. You're responsible for everything you've created in your life. So I look at the 2 things very different. But I have an accountability to other people. If you have a job, you're accountable to your boss, period. If you have customers, you are accountable to those customers. But you're responsible for yourself in how you deal with those people. So I look at it as 2 very different topics, and yet rooted in the same basic core values of this is up to me. And it's up to me to give you what you pay for, what you expect, the very best of myself, and it's up to me to own that and be responsible for it. What I think is interesting about today is that people come in all ready to be happy and motivated and comfortable. And Bob has a certain following. And I know that I'm so contradictory in style and 180 degrees that for me to stand on stage and say the things I do and see the shock in people's eyes. See, I see great value in being able to do that. And again, that's why I get hired, is to shock people into waking them up some. And I think just the variety of having me up there with the other messages, I just think it's fascinating. Well, I'm a little more realistic when it comes to vision. I think people look too far down the line sometimes. Vision sort of takes care of itself, I believe, if you're focused every single day on doing the right thing in the moment. You can have an idea of where you'd like to be in your life and how you'd like for it to end up, and we all should have those things. But I think we sometimes become so forward focused that we don't take care of business today. And so I think it's great to have a vision for your life and goals in your life, all that's fine. But don't sacrifice the present while you're thinking too much about the future and then forget the past. That's already done. Oh, my legacy. I was a red boot guy in a brown shoe world, really. I want my tombstone to say empty, all used up. I'm going to have as much fun as I can along the way, work as hard as I can along the way, but what I do, this really doesn't matter. You know, it's an old thing I heard from Wayne Dyer that, you know, about the time you think you make a difference, you just fill a bucket with water, stick your finger in it and pull it out and see what difference you've made to that bucket of water. I really don't take what we do very seriously. It doesn't matter at the end of the day whether I've changed the world. What matters at the end of my life is that I've been a good guy to my family, and I've loved, and I never hesitated to say what needed to be said, and I worked hard, and I served people well who paid me to do it. That's it, very simple. I pretty much end all interviews with a very simple message. Your life really is your fault. And if you want to turn your life around, you figure out where you are, you figure out where you want to be, and you figure out what you're going to give up. Remember, life is your fault, and you have to sacrifice some things in order to move forward. Most people don't talk about sacrifice. And I'm a big believer in reminding people you can't have it all. You have to choose. To say yes to one thing, you got to say no to something else. Own your life, own where you want to be, and then be willing to give up the things that are keeping you from getting where you want to be.